Hello, girls! It's your favorite anatomy teacher again. Missing you more and more. Um, one day late, I wanted to wish you happy Feast of the Annunciation. I hope you were able to enjoy it. It was a beautiful feast. Let's pray that just like Mary, we can say yes to everything God gives us, even the difficult and frustrating things like what's happening now. We're going to start a new topic. I'm sorry, not new topic. We're still on nervous system, but within nervous system, we're looking at the action potential. I want to just give you a quick warning. It's confusing. If you do not watch this video and the video I'm going to recommend at least twice, you will not get it. But if you persist, I know you will be able to get it. So please, you need to wrestle with this and it will come through. Action potential is the fancy scientific name really for a nerve impulse. A nerve impulse is a traveling action potential. It's that mysterious thing we kept referring to, the electrochemical impulse that we kept saying. Who knows what that is? It's this crazy electrical activity going on in your nerves. And it travels along the length of the nerve cell, as you know. Well, what is it really and how does it work? The first thing we need to understand is this term. It's a term you probably learned in physics and probably forgot. Potential difference is, we're going to give it a really simple description. It's the difference in electric potential, or more simply in charge. The difference in charge in two different locations. It's measured in volts. This is parentheses, you don't need to know this, but a battery has a potential difference. It has a positive terminal and negative terminal. And so when they're connected by a wire electrically, current will flow. And of course, as you know, batteries are measured in volts, right? A 9-volt battery and so on. So there's a little bit of that going on in our bodies, much lower level, but there's a potential difference. Where is this potential difference? In our favorite cell, the nerve cell. When a nerve cell is at rest, just at rest, doing nothing, even when you're asleep, right? A potential difference exists. On the inside, there is a negative charge. On the outside, there is a positive charge. Actually, let's look at this picture. This red thing represents a piece of length of the axon. This picture here, there's an activity going on there. So really, you only want to look at the first part. Negative on the inside, positive on the outside. Here, it's very clear. Negative interior of the cell, positive exterior of the cell. Cytosol is just another word for cytoplasm. So they're indicating this is happening inside the cell. Okay, so this is what's happening when it's at rest. Therefore, it's called the resting potential. So a nerve cell at rest has, first of all, a resting potential that we just described, positive on the outside, negative on the inside. But it has two other very important traits. It has a high concentration of potassium ions inside and a high concentration of sodium ions on the outside. So a cell has this, the cell here is the yellow stuff, has lots of potassium inside, lots of sodium outside, and it's creating those concentration differences. Oops, sorry. They're called concentration gradients. The cell is creating it. It's pushing sodium ions out and pushing potassium ions in. And here you see also that it's negative on the inside, positive on the outside. So these are the three things that a resting nerve cell has. How does it make these differences? And it creates them with the membrane proteins that we studied long ago in September and October. So do you remember all these membrane proteins? Let's take a look at these. It has three super important membrane proteins that work here. The potassium channel, remember a channel protein was just like a tunnel. Notice that this tunnel is closed now because the channel proteins that are at work are ones that can open and shut. In fact, they usually call them gates. Oh my goodness, touching buttons with my sleeve. I have a big sweatshirt and the sleeve keeps moving, sorry. So these channel proteins are, so to speak, gated. They can close and open. So the potassium channel is the one through which potassium ions move. The sodium channel, can you guess what moves through it? That's right, sodium ions. Okay, so two channel proteins. Remember, these are passive transport, and when they open up, the ions just flow. Instead, here we have a pump. A pump is another name for a carrier protein. A carrier protein requires ATP, requires energy, and it actively transports. So this pump transports sodium and potassium. Here's a more detailed picture of it, right? This is the sodium-potassium pump. It pumps 3 sodium ions out and 2 potassium ions in every time it works. So you can see 3 sodium ions are getting pushed out, 2 potassium ions then get pushed in, and it's using up ATP. And it is always at work precisely so that it can maintain this concentration gradient. Sodium high concentration on the outside, potassium low concentration on the inside. Okay, so these are 3 membrane proteins constantly at work in the nerve cell. All right, so now let's talk about what the nerve impulse is. I'm going to give you a verb definition and then we'll look at pictures. A nerve impulse is a traveling action potential. That is, it's a reversal in the cell's electrical charge. And that reversal moves along the axon. That's really confusing until you see it. When you see it in the picture and then in the video, and you go back to this definition, then this definition will begin to make sense, okay? So don't worry if you're confused. It happens through sodium and potassium ions moving, right? In electric current, electrons are moving. In electrochemical impulses, what's moving? Sodium and potassium ions are moving in and out of the cell. And they're moving through those channels and pumps, those membrane proteins that we just looked at now. So here's a picture of it. This part here, this red part, is the normal nerve cell at rest. The blue represents what? An action potential has arrived. A nerve impulse is arriving. What occurs? Sodium ions enter the cell, and the cell becomes positive. There's a reversal of charge. The cell is positive, and this outside the cell is negative. This blue area represents a charge reversal. It only lasts a millisecond, less, and it begins to travel along from left to right along the axon. So here we see that now the action potential has occurred here. This part is the normal cell at rest. The action potential is moving along. The green area represents returning to the normal charge. That happens through potassium ions that leave. Potassium ions exit to reestablish the usual resting potential, which is positive on the outside, negative on the inside. Okay, so this is like recuperating. This is the action potential, which is traveling. We know it's going to keep moving to the right. And this is the normal cell that hasn't yet received the action potential. And look what happens in stage 3. This has returned to normal. Here's the action potential moving further down the axon. Here's the part recuperating, and this is the part that will get it next. And so you can see how that action potential is traveling all along the course of the axon. The best is really to see this in video. And so I think this is where you should watch the teacher's pet video. The link is right here, and I also typed it in on the instructions in the email. And then maybe you can continue the rest of my video. Well, or actually you can finish the screencast first, as you wish. Either way is fine. This is another image of the same thing. Notice the terminology. When the charge is being reversed, it's called depolarization. When the charge is returning to normal, it's called repolarization. So charge reversal, depolarization. Charge returning to normal, repolarization. Okay, so again, here it's the green thing traveling down. The green thing represents the action potential, the depolarization, traveling down the length of the axon little by little. And the section of the axon right after it is recuperating. It's repolarizing. This picture, I think, is a really good one because it also shows how it's happening. How is it becoming positive? Sodium ions flow in. How is it recuperating? Potassium ions flow out. So now the charge has recuperated. But notice one thing. When the charge has recuperated, right, here the charge is back to its normal charge. The concentration gradient of sodium and potassium has gotten mixed up. Now there's lots of potassiums outside and lots of sodiums inside, which it's not supposed to be that way. If you remember, it was the reverse at the beginning. So there's one last thing that needs to happen. It's called the refractory period. It's the return to concentration gradient. And how does it happen? From this guy you already learned about, the sodium-potassium pump. So you can read that, and that describes what I think makes sense. The sodium-potassium pumps all along the cell have to work hard to get the concentration gradient to return. And until the concentration gradient has returned, this nerve cell cannot receive another message. So obviously it has to work hard and make it happen really fast. One last detail. Do you remember that when a cell is myelinated, so here it's got its myelin sheath, right? And remember that the gaps between the myelin sheath, where the nerve cell is uncovered, are called nodes of Ranvier. When that happens, when the axon cell is an axon is myelinated, the nerve impulse can travel more quickly. And the reason is that it literally travels from one node of Ranvier to another. It takes these big leaps. It's jumping. And so that action potential is much faster. It just, the sodium and potassium ions only have to move here, and they jump, they move here, they jump, they move here. So there's only a certain areas of ion activity. But the action potential is able to travel. It kind of like just jumps over this area that's been myelinated. And so it makes this really fast conduction. Notice the Italian word saltare, because it's called saltatory conduction. So that's why myelinated axon travels faster. I think that's everything. Oh, this is just a little couple questions. What is a cell's resting potential? What is a nerve impulse or action potential? And what are the things that move to create these changes, I think is what I wanted to say. So really, really briefly, this is a super short answer. Cell's resting potential, negative on inside, positive on outside, and a concentration gradient. Sodium high on outside, potassium high on inside. What is a nerve impulse? The shortest possible definition would be a charge reversal, which is traveling down the axon. And what is moving to create these charges? Ions are moving, especially sodium and potassium. We'll see later chlorine also a little bit. Okay, watch your teacher's pet, read your book, watch them a couple times, then read your book, and answer the questions. They're due by Friday. I know if you work at this, you will understand it and you will be more satisfied. And make sure you get outside today. It's a beautiful day. Take care, girls. I send you all my love. And one more thing. It's Thursday, isn't it? So, no, it's Wednesday. I was going to wish you a happy Thursday. Wait, you know what, girls? I am totally at a loss. Is it Wednesday or Thursday? It's Wednesday, never mind. Okay. All right, I'm getting lost without school days. In any case, love you lots. Take care. Bye-bye.